Hello everybody, my name is Preet from NBFX Trades, and today I'm going to be doing some technical analysis on some of the major pairs and some of the minor pairs as well. Let's get stuck into it. So here we can see a 1 hour chart for Euro US dollar. What I'm going to do first is try to gain some sentiment, whether this is a bullish or a bearish trend. For that, I'm going to start on the daily. So we'll have a look at the daily and see where we're at with this. Okay, so it's important to note we're at the weekend now, so this analysis is going to be for next week. So what we can see here on the daily, if I just start to draw some lines, we can see that we're kind of nearing resistance here at this point. So it's important to note that as the price for this chart looks to kind of take on this resistance zone, it's important to note that any orders that you take from here on out that are long orders may be met with some resistance. But it's good to note that the overall trend, I mean, if we look at the trend from back in September last year, we are looking at an uptrend. It's important to note that on the EMAs, we have a 21 moving average and an 8 moving average. And because the 21 moving average is currently sitting below the 8 moving average, this would indicate an uptrend on the 1 day time frame. So this would indicate a bullish sentiment right now. Now that we've got that under the way, I probably wouldn't be looking for any trades with it being so close to resistance right now. So I'd probably let this play out for a couple days maybe, just to see where price ends up. If it ends up hitting this resistance line, that's when we can have a look to see if there's a battle going on between the buyers and sellers. Or if we go down to the 4 hour time frame and we have a look at see what's going on. So the indicators that I'm using at the moment are the UK pivot points and the 50 moving average, 200 moving average and RSI. Now, part of my strategy involves bounce backs off of the 200 or the 50 moving average points. So what we can see here on the 4 hour chart is that price has actually come down and hit this 200 moving average. Now, we could take moving averages as a form of support or a form of resistance, especially if there is no indication that price is at a major level of support. We have these minor supports, from price within a trend, but historically the EMAs are a good indication that there is a support level here, and that can be seen here when the price comes down and hits this 200 moving average. We can see a little bounce off that mark. I'm still in a bullish sentiment here. The 4 hour time frame lines up nicely with the daily time frame. As we can see here, green is below the red, which means an uptrend, a bullish sentiment. Green is below the red on the 4 hour, which again means a bullish sentiment. If we drop down to the 1 hour, now this is why it's so good to have a look at all of the moving averages on all of the time frames, just to see how much confluence we can get. From here, we can see that there is also another uptrend on the 1 hour chart. If we zoom it out, there has been for a very, very long time. Sentiment on this chart, although it has broken down below the 200 moving average, we can still see that the green is below the red, which again indicates a bullish trend. So there's some good opportunities here setting up for next week. I just want to make sure before entering any trades that we don't see a further move to the downside. Perhaps if I'm looking at entering trades on this, I'd be looking at a retracement down to this 200 moving average, or sorry, I'd say the 21 moving average on the daily time frame, just to see if we can get a nice reaction in the form of a bounce back here. If we are looking at scalp trading now on this chart, we can see that the green is actually above the red, which indicates a short-term downtrend or a bearish sentiment. For this reason, on the 15-minute chart, I wouldn't be looking to take any long positions, purely because we're not in an uptrend on the 15-minute time frame. But that's a look at the Euro US dollar. Just a bit of technical analysis. This is based off pretty much price action alone and the moving averages and how everything lines up. But there's some good bullish sentiment here on the 1 hour, 4 hour and the daily. If we move on to cable now, pound US dollar, we'll be able to see pretty similar move in terms of sentiment. Now, the reason I've actually taken a trade on this. So what we're looking for at the moment is I've traded this purely based on the 1 hour time frame. Now, let's have a look at sentiment from the daily time frame first. We can see that again, it's a bullish sentiment. We've actually broken past these highs that were set back in when is this? So May time this was set, and then this one back in May time last year. So there's a bit of a theme here when it comes to May. There seems to be a little bit of a battle at these 2 points. Now, what we've seen as of recent is this resistance line that I've just drawn here. It's actually being broken right here with this long bullish candle. So a break of resistance normally means that there is a continuation of a trend in the upward direction. So what we can see here is a little retracement, and the reason I've actually entered long in here at this retracement, at this level where the blue arrow is, that's because, well, we can have a look at the 4 hour chart. The time frames, we're getting a bit of confluence here in terms of the trend. So that again, the 200 moving average is below the 50 moving average, and we have seen a little bit of a battle from this 50 moving average. Now, I've actually taken this on the 1 hour time frame purely because what we're seeing at the moment is a bit of consolidation at this level, at this point around here. And the reason I took this trade was, well, I was looking at it for a little bit of time, and I just wanted to see how price reacted at this S1 level. We've seen a bit of I'd say a triple bottom right here. So 1, 2, 3 points at which price has rejected the S1 level. So what I've done is, part of my strategy is to look at where price meets the 50 moving average or the 200 moving average, and where price is actually severely oversold at this point. What we can do is we can have a look at the RSI at this point, and we can see that it dips into oversold territory. Over here, we can see that the relative strength index at this point was around about 17 and a half, which is way below the oversold point at 20. Now, this was where my interests to trade this chart and go long peaked. I just wanted to, like I said, double check to see if there was a little bit of rejection, and I've managed to get rejection. Now, before the weekend closed out, I actually entered this trade. Yes, in hindsight, I could have probably waited until Monday morning just to see if there was any influence in the price, but I was a bit aggressive and went in a little bit early. Not to worry, all of my trade criteria have been met. I've entered this on pretty much a 2 to 1. 2 to 1. So $3,000 profit and a $1,600 risk on this one. So it's a 2 to 1 trade. It's a very nice trade. Historically, we see when price consolidates and squeezes into a little channel here, along with RSI going oversold, along with a triple bottom, along with it meeting the trends. There's a lot of confluence here that we can see. So I'm confident with the probability of this trade coming off, but it's just one to wait and see. So we'll check back in on this one later on next week and see what we have, what price can do for us. Now, moving on to the USD yen, so the dollar-yen pair. We'll start off again with what's happening on the daily. So what we can see here, if we just draw some lines, so we've seen a little bit of resistance at this point. Previously, what we've seen recently, it was kind of rejecting this level, but due to some news that came out, we've seen a sharp continuation above this resistance zone. So we've seen price break through, which is a good indication that price is going to carry on going up and continuing to higher highs. Now, where would be the targets? I mean, where is price going right now? Well, the next zone of resistance, if this if this resistance level, which is now going to become support, if this support level holds, then I can see price going to these highs here and meeting up with the previous peak. So we've got quite a bit of a move here that we can anticipate if things go well. What we can see is, because price has broken above this zone, I would be keen on looking at some long entries. So my sentiment on this chart is pretty bullish. We can see a strong move from the previous low up to this point. It's been a strong move. Not much resistance has been faced, so we can see a good indication that price is going to move up, and we'd be looking to enter and get involved with this market on the lower time frames. Now, let's have a look at potentially the 4-hour mark. To be realistic, it's a bit too much of a bullish move to be able to get involved right now. What I'd be ideally looking for is a retracement just until it again meets this line here, at least, before I can have a look and see if this market is offering us an entry. On the 1-hour time frame, now this is the time frame that I tend to normally trade on. The 4-hour is good for confluence, just to see if we can get some confluence with the time frames. But this chart is really where I'd be looking at taking entries if I am trading on the 1-hour chart, or if I'm scalping, I'd be looking at the 15-minute chart and seeing if we can get some entries there. So what we can see is price is a little bit high at the moment. Now we ideally don't want to enter here. It's at R1, the first resistance level on the pivot points. Ideally, I'd be looking at it to retrace. If we look at the 1-hour chart first, ideally I'd be looking at a retracement to at least the 50 EMA. The 50 EMA, and if we can get a deeper pullback towards the 200 EMA around about this point here, that would look quite juicy for a trade. So yeah, a little bit further off where we want to be, a little bit too high for the moment. But I'd be looking at least a retracement back to the previous resistance level, which is now support level, around about the 142 to 90 mark, just to see how price reacts if it does hit this support zone, and seeing if we can get some entries there. So that's what I'm holding off on for now. Any scalps on here? I mean, we're closing in on a retracement back down to the 50 EMA. My thoughts on this, I think we can probably see a deeper retracement before we can get involved on this chart as well. But it's a nice uptrend here, so it'd be good to try and get some entries. I mean, this would have been a good one. Just didn't meet all of my criteria. I think news came out at this point, and that caused a surge to the upside on the 15 minutes. But yeah, this would have been a good trade here. The only thing with this trade was, I mean, realistically, an entry would have been around about here on this trade, because we saw a nice rejection candle here at previous support. So realistically, closing on this candle would have been a good entry. The only thing with this one was, I mean, to be able to take this trade, you would have to risk at least 130 pips to be able to gain, well, where it is now, 100 pips. So yeah, I mean, it's probably not a good trade to take in terms of risk management. You're under a 1-to-1 risk to reward ratio, which is why this trade wasn't taken at the time. But yeah, that's just a little bit of clarification on my thoughts on the dollar-yen pair. Now, if we move on to the pound-yen pair, this is a great pair to trade, in my opinion. It is also one of the most volatile and the most dangerous pairs to trade. We can't really see at the moment any previous historical data for this on the daily time chart. So I'm going to just drag it out to the weekly time chart for this one, just so it's easier for you guys to see. What we can see here is price has had a huge rally in the last few days, and what we've seen is a major increase in price for the pound yen pair. Now, the reason for this, I mean, fundamentally, there's been a lot going on in the UK, but I'm just doing technical analysis on this one. So I want to give predictions on what price is going to do rather than why price has done what it's done, just to see where we can get involved. I haven't got any indicators on the weekly chart. I just never really look at the weekly chart, and if I do, it's only to gain where the major levels are that we can see price battle at. But we've seemed to have broken the previous levels. I mean, the previous level was here at this point here, and there was a more recent one. Now, if we want to go on recency bias, we can have a look at the price level here. We've saw a little bit of resistance here, a tiny bit, 2 days of selling, to then be broken out and, I mean, form new highs for this recent trend. So what we can see is sentiment is quite bullish here. If we drop down to the daily time frame, we can see again the sentiment is very, very bullish. We've just had a retracement and a break of this zone, so we're in a good position to carry on to the upside here. If we drop down to the 4-hour chart, what we can see here, if I zoom in a little bit, is, well, we're looking to go up. It's clear to see that the price is looking to go up in the short to long term. To get involved in a trade like this, ideally you'd be looking for a retracement at least down to the 50 EMA. Again, best case scenario, we'd get a retracement down to 200 EMA, just to see if we can get a deeper retracement and a better price entry for a trade like this. So I'd be holding off on this one. If the price carries on from here and goes up, not a problem. This hasn't met my trade criteria of bouncing off an EMA level, and so I won't trade it. So what I'll ideally be waiting for on the 4-hour chart is a price retracement at least down to the 50 or the 200 EMA. On the 1-hour time frame, I'd be ideally looking for a pullback into the kind of the 180 flat zone. I mean, 180 flat is a psychological number as well. So if we can get a trade off the 180 flat zone at 200 EMA, then this could set up for a nice trade. Just looking at this now, we've had a few bounces off the 180 in most recent, I'd say, hours. So we've had 2 rejections here. So yeah, this is looking like a tasty zone for an ideal trade to be made. If we were looking at risk management here, I'd be aiming for the highs. Let's just say, for argument's sake, that we get a retracement on open, and price starts to retrace down from where it is now. I'd be aiming for a trade which targets these zones right here, so around about a 275 pip move, with risk being around about, if we want to be conservative, then we would go just under the S3 mark here, or if we want to be even more conservative, you could risk around here, just lower than the previous double bottom. That's about a 58 pip risk. I tend to like my trades to have a little bit more breathing room. I can see the next one here is around about 133 pips below that previous support there over here. So ideally I'd be looking at a 133 if we were to, so 140 pips here, risk for a gain of 280 and nearly a 2-to-1, so that would be a good trade. So this is a zone that I'd be looking at entering on the 1-hour chart for the pound yen pair. The franc, the dollar franc pair. Now this has been an interesting one. I've taken a couple of trades here, as you can see, some successful trades as well at that. Yeah, this pair's been pretty nice to me over the past few days. But let's check out sentiment. What is this doing now? You can see clearly straight off the bat that we are trending in a downtrend right now, and we're at a point right now where I'd be looking at a continuation either down here, or we'd be looking for a little bit of a rally upwards to break this previous retracement high, this pullback high, and see if price can carry on and reverse. Ideally, I'd be looking at another move down though, because we're looking at sentiment right now on the daily, and the red is actually below the green, which indicates a downtrend, a bearish sentiment. And what we've seen the last day of trading is a rejection off this 21 EMA. Now that's a good indication that price is looking to come back down. The sellers are winning out at the moment. Although it's a green candle, this rejection is a strong one, and this previous retracement, I mean, on the daily, it wasn't broken, so we can we can see that there's a good indication that this is going to go down some further, further to the downside. Here, if we look at the 4-hour chart, again, we can see that the green is above the red, so the indication that a downward trend or a continuation to the downside is quite probable. The only reason I'm a bit cautious at the moment to take any trades on this one is because we have gained a little bit of support here, so I'd be cautious of entering on this time frame. At least because of this previous support. I mean, the most recent low, there was a nice rejection off this point, off this S1 point here, and we've seen a rally to the R1 zone, which was also at the 200 EMA. So yeah, I mean, a nice strong rejection here we can see from this R1 zone and the 200 EMA, which is a good indication that price potentially is looking to reject off that line and go down to these previous lows. So yeah, we could potentially look at entering short here, but I would ideally be looking at a further retracement up here to be able to get involved. I mean, to be able to take this on a short, we'd be looking at risk putting a stop loss above these highs here, around here. So we'd be looking at a pullback to around about here before I can consider entering, because that would give me a nice risk to reward ratio of at least 1-to-1. So we're looking at 90 pips here for a gain of 120. So ideally we could even go around about here, so 100 pips for a gain of 100 pips here. So a retracement above this zone would be where I'd be looking at to get involved for a short. This one might be good to take for a scalp position. Now, right now I wouldn't be scalping this one purely because the sentiment is bearish. So I would like to, when I'm scalping, I would like the daily chart to match up with the sentiment on the 15-minute chart if I am scalping. And we're seeing that this is a bullish trend on the, I wouldn't say a trend, I'd say the sentiment is bullish for the short term because it matches, the 200 EMA is below the 50 moving average. So what we can see here is we can see that price is in a bullish trend or a bullish sentiment. So I wouldn't be looking at getting involved in any shorts here because it doesn't line up with the sentiment on the daily. So if price continues to go down and the EMAs cross, where that the red is below the 200, the green, then I would be looking at getting involved with potential retracements. So let's say price carries on down, the EMAs cross, I would be looking at a pullback into that EMA crossing over zone and get involved for potential shorts to the downside here with risk or with a stop loss placed above these highs here. So we could be in for a good scalping session with this pair. But that's my take on USD Swiss. So this one has been doing really, really well, presenting some very, very nice opportunities over the past week or so. Gold, so I mean, I took a really, really nice scalping trade on gold earlier on in the week. Now, in terms of, I mean, just look at this. There's some beautiful patterns being displayed here, beautiful following or continuation of trends. Really, really textbook stuff. But let's start off with the daily, like I have been, because this is where I'll start all of my technical analysis at the end of the week. So what we've seen here is, I mean, we're in a clear downtrend. I think most charts will indicate that. If we have a look at most of the trends, most of the EMAs on every chart on gold, some really, really nice opportunities on gold at the moment. What we're looking at right now is a downward trend from previous highs. Now, gold has been letting off some steam for the past few weeks now, so we're seeing what I hope is a continuation trades for gold, at least down to this mark here, the 1820 mark, because that's where we can see price heading towards. Now, what we can see is it realistic that price will get all the way down here? Potentially not. It's all about, I guess this one is going to be about how dollar is perceived over the next few days, weeks, months, just for us to see what sort of sentiment we get and how far of a pullback we can get from this high. So we can't forget that gold is actually coming off a major resistance zone. So what is expected is this movement that gold is taking right now. How far we're going to go down with this price, I mean that's impossible to call, but we can see that we are in a downward trend, so I'd be looking at getting involved with a few short trades here on its way down. So sentiment on the 4-hour chart, yep, we can see that it is a very bearish move. We're seeing a little bit of a pullback here with a strong rejection off this R1 zone and close to this 50 moving average. So we can probably see a continuation down further, just that gold is going to let off some more steam here. So I would be looking at getting involved with this trade. I mean, this was a really nice setup, really nice trade that I chose to not get involved with purely because it was late on in the week. Late on in the day, and I just didn't want to get involved. I was already involved with 2 other trades, which I will show here in a bit. So my first trade was cable, which I got involved with, which I've already explained why. The second one, I'd be looking at retracements around about to this level. If we can get a one off the 200 EMA, that would be even better, because then I could look to take a really nice deep retracement trade, a deep pullback trade, in hopes that gold continues on its rampage downwards and give me some money. So hopefully that's the goal. But we'd be looking at retracements down here. It's very easy to see that it's been in a downward trend. I mean, the red has not. There's been a little bit of a battle here, but red for the most part has been below the green, which indicates a downward trend. And again, more of the same on the 15-minute mark. This would have been a nice trade to take if anybody got involved with this one earlier on in the day, or earlier on in the week, I should say. This one was a really nice trade because we hadn't, I mean, if we were to look at risk, we would have been at a kind of a 75-point risk here for a gain of around about 165. So over a 2-to-1 here. Really nice opportunities, like I said, on gold. And this was another really nice trade that potentially I should have got involved with, but again, it was just too late on in the day to take this trade. But a lot of confluence on the trends, a lot of confluence on the sentiment, on the 15-minute, the 1 hour, the 4 hour, and the daily. Everything is in a downtrend. So yeah, indication is that the price will carry on, hopefully, to go down to at least this zone here, around about here. So that's my sentiment on gold. I'm going to skip the DAX. And we'll go on to the Nasdaq, because I feel as if we've got a nice little move on the Nasdaq that's setting up here. So I actually took the Nasdaq trade a little bit earlier on in the week. What we saw was a little bit of a. In fact, before I do that, I will just talk to you about sentiment and what the Nasdaq is doing. I am a little bit uncertain about this trade. Now, what we've seen is I've been hoping to get a little bit out of the market from this trade before it hits stop loss. Hopefully I can, but my sentiment on this one, I am very bullish on Nasdaq. Always have been, and I think anyone in their right mind has always been bullish for the long term, at least on the Nasdaq. Now we've actually seen a huge sell-off from Nasdaq in the last few months, or I would say that the last year. So we've seen a really nice pullback. There was some really nice opportunities to get involved to the upside here. But what we've seen as of recently is, if we look at the daily chart, we've seen that prices come and hit this resistance zone here. A good indication of what price is going to do next, with it being at a major resistance zone here, is a little bit of a sell-off. So we are probably going to be looking and seeing a sell-off for the upcoming weeks, or the upcoming days at least. How much of a sell-off we get, that's only indicated by potential fundamentals. But I took this trade on the 1 hour time frame purely because it met my criteria and it met my sentiment on the Nasdaq. So what we've seen here is a pullback from highs to the 200 EMA. I saw that price hit my 20 or my oversold status, and we saw a green candle straight after that. So I entered this trade on close of this green candle with a nice risk of just under 200 pips and a reward of 329 pips, or 320. We'll call it 320. So really nice risk to reward ratio on this one. We're looking at taking some profits here. So what we've seen is initially we have reached a little bit of a rally here, but we have, towards the close of the day, the close of the week, we have seen a little bit of steam let off in that rally. But hopefully this steam let off in this rally is not enough to come down and meet this stop loss. Hopefully it will be a continuation upwards to this resistance zone, and hopefully we can take off our profits there. But I'll be looking at this one closely towards the course of the next week. But yeah, that's been my kind of sentiment. That's been my technical analysis on all these pairs. Hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully you gained some insight on the way I think when I am trading. Some really nice trades taken over the course of the last few weeks, and hopefully we can continue with the sentiment that a few of these pairs are bullish and a few of them are bearish, and take advantage of the markets. But hopefully you enjoyed. If you did like this video, please like, comment and subscribe for more content, and stay tuned for more. If you did like the video, then if you want to follow more about my trading techniques and strategies, then check out my website. There's a link to some courses, online courses that I do, but majority of course content that I'm going to be talking about, you can see here on YouTube. Any beginners that are looking to get into the market, if you are enjoying the content, like I said, leave a like, comment and subscribe with your thoughts and your sentiment of the market. And I'll see you in the next analysis video. Take care. Bye bye.